Sustainability Karma, a podcast series on sustainable development, sustainability, and ESG, or environmental, social, and governance, on AIR FM Rainbow Delhi 102.6. In this podcast series, with senior journalist and editor Rajiv Tikoo, a who's who of thought leaders from the government, private sector, and civil society share their mantra for accelerating development in India and making the world a better place.
Namaskar. Welcome to this episode of Sustainability Karma. I am your host, Rajiv Tikoo. Today we focus on the role of renewable energy in climate action. Climate change, as we know, is one of the biggest challenges of our times. And renewable energy helps in reducing carbon emissions to address the challenge of climate change. In today's episode of Sustainability Karma, we talk to Sumant Sinha, founder, chairman, and CEO of ReNew. Sumant Sinha is like the poster boy of India's renewable energy sector. He has made ReNew a leading clean energy company in India. ReNew supplies almost 1% of India's total electricity and mitigates 0.5% of India's carbon emissions every year. He is not only a practitioner, but also a thought leader. He has just released an updated version of his acclaimed book, Fossil Free. So let's welcome Sumant Sinha to this episode of Sustainability Karma and hear more from him. Welcome, Sumant Sinha.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Rajiv, for having me on your show.
Let me begin by asking you, what prompted you to bring out an updated edition of your book?
Look, the reason I decided to update the book is because, our sector is changing very rapidly. Mm-hmm. And there is there are new technologies that are coming in. There are new regulatory developments. Ambitions of governments and countries are changing, and also that in civil society. And because of all of these changes, I felt it was important that one reflects some of those changes in an updated sort of version of the book. And which is why in this book, you will see that there is a full new chapter on green hydrogen. Because as you know, that's now something that we are all recognizing is going to take the whole energy transition in some ways into phase 2. Phase 1 was that of renewable energy. Phase 2 will be hydrogen based. And we are at the beginning of that transition right now. It will take a little bit more time for that to come about. But that was really the primary reason that I decided to update the book and come out of the second edition. The other thing is, from a purely commercial standpoint, it's also a soft cover, and so therefore makes it a little bit more accessible to people.
Now you're also venturing into other areas, even hydrogen for that matter. So where do you see yourself in the next few years and long term also?
Long term, we started off as a renewable energy company doing wind and solar projects. But I think long term, we see ourselves really as a full decarbonization partner to both corporates as well as to countries. And the reason we are looking at it in a more broader sense now is because renewable energy addresses only electricity. Electricity is only a quarter of overall the energy value chain, and energy accounts for the bulk of carbon emissions in the world. And so ultimately, we see ourselves as a company that is focusing on reducing carbon emissions and therefore focusing on more full-scale decarbonization. Also, I believe that green hydrogen, which is a molecule-based product rather than an electron-based product, will be very big an opportunity in the future. So I think for those reasons, we decided to that's how I think the future will evolve, and that's how we see the company's future and role changing as well.
What's your outlook for the renewable sector in India? How well positioned is it to help India deliver on its commitments on renewable energy, even climate change for the matter?
I think, look, India is a country that accounts for the third largest carbon emissions in the world of any country after the China and the US. India is a rapidly growing country as well. Now, if we were to follow the carbon intensive path based on fossil fuels, our carbon emissions would keep increasing. And that is obviously not going to be good for the world, and also certainly not good for India, because as you know, India has one of the most vulnerable populations to climate change. And therefore, collectively, along with the rest of the world, doing our best to deal with climate change is a very important issue for us. Now, if you look at the power sector, today 70% of it is based on coal. Right? And if you look at, of course, the mobility sector, cars and so on, it's all based on more or less, 80% imported fuel. So India is a big importer of fossil fuels, and our entire energy systems depend on fossil fuels. I think the Prime Minister has recognized that this is not a tenable situation for us, both from a climate change standpoint and from an economical standpoint as well, because as a country, we spend almost $150 billion every year on importing fossil fuels. So he's been very clear about setting a target for renewable energy and making sure that we go in that direction in a very, very big way and become a leader actually, and use this as an opportunity not just to reshape the Indian economy into clean energy, but also become a world leader in clean energy. So I think Prime Minister Modi has taken a very, very enlightened view on this issue and has set India on a very, very fundamentally different path than we were on earlier. And I think that's absolutely the right thing to have done.
India has made lots of progress on SDGs, particularly SDG 7, but it is still insufficient to help India achieve the goal. So what can be done to accelerate progress there?
Look, I think SDG 7, which deals with energy access, I think, look, we're already doing a lot. If you think about it, India has the world's single largest grid, which is now going to every single village. The intention of the government is to electrify every single home and then also increase the overall generation infrastructure to make sure that we have enough power that can actually go to every home. So I think the government has done a lot to make sure that we bring energy to everybody, and that to clean energy now increasingly more and more through this whole target of 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity. So I think where we need to do more work as a country is really on the distribution utilities, which are really in the hands of state governments, which really need, that is an area where we still need improvement, because we still do have a lot of AT&C losses, which are the transmission and those kinds of losses, and the whole distribution side, which is the consumer facing side, the quality of that can be improved quite substantially. So the central government has come out with rules of making sure that consumer protection happens. But again, we know that some of the states have adopted that, some have not adopted that. So that's one area which is a gray zone in India a little bit, where more work needs to happen. But the central government on its part, under Prime Minister Modi, is trying to do whatever they can to make sure that those issues also get addressed.
How can India influence G20 agenda for just energy transition?
I think, look, there are 2-3 ways in which we can do that. But that's an excellent question, by the way. First of all, I think India's new development model based on clean energy stands as a beacon and as an example to a lot of other developing countries that this is the path to go down, right? That you don't have to go down the path of fossil fuels. So I think India is really showing by its own actions how this path can actually lead to better outcomes, bring down the cost of energy, and lead to clean energy, and give access to people, because ultimately you can set up renewable energy through microgrids in rural areas as well, right? And generate at the rural, in the rural areas itself. So I think that's one way in which India is showing leadership. The second very important thing is, Prime Minister Modi came out with this concept of lifestyle for the environment, life short. And I think that's also very important, because today what happens is that, as individual consumers, we are not careful about how we utilize energy and, how to use it in the best possible way. And nor are we concerned about waste and, using plastics and so on. So I think the whole concept of lifestyle for the environment, I think, is very important in actually bringing down energy intensity across the world. So that's something also that can be adopted by the rest of the world. As far as India's renewable energy mission is concerned, we are well on track. We have a very ambitious target, which is very good, which will make India one of the leading countries in renewable energy installations over the next many years. We're trying to move the entire value chain into India by getting into solar manufacturing and wind turbine manufacturing as well. And we've already installed or auctioned almost 200 gigawatts already. Okay, and I think we are well on the path to hitting the 500 gigawatts. So I think that is very good. And I think our company at ReNew, we already have a total portfolio of about 17.5 gigawatts, out of which 8.5 currently is commissioned. So I think we as a company are also contributing in a good way to helping India achieve its overall goals and targets.
What's your sense of rare metal supplies affecting the sector actually?
I think that it's not just rare metals, it's all minerals actually that are important for the energy transition. Copper, for example, lithium is another one, aluminum is a third one. I think all of those are going to be constrained in the future. A lot of the mining that happens of these minerals happens in countries which don't have a political stability. So we have to do three things. Number one, we have to increase the search for these metals and minerals in India. And there's been a big discovery of lithium in India right now. So that's really good. So we need to continue to do that and see that we have more. So we need to exploit that as much as possible. The second thing we have to do is we have to focus on circularity much more. We have to focus on recycling a lot more. So that's the other thing that we have to do. And thirdly, we have to think about, entering into agreements with other governments, other countries, where those supplies already exist, right? And figure out how we can get those supplies into India. So that's really where, the government can play a very important role in helping build those partnerships with other countries. Thank
you for joining us in today's episode of Sustainability Karma.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You just heard Sumant Sinha, founder, chairman, and CEO of ReNew, on how renewable energy is playing a very important role in India's climate change journey.
We hope you liked this program. This program is also live streamed on All India Radio and aired on community radio stations. We look forward to your feedback on our WhatsApp number 9818120554. For participation in this program, write to us at sustainabilitykarma@gmail.com. You may also connect with us on social media. This podcast is also available on podcasting hosting sites. Looking forward to meet you again at the same time next week with a new episode and a new guest. Till then, goodbye from all of us. Sustainability Karma, a podcast series with senior journalist and editor Rajiv Tikoo on sustainable development, sustainability and ESG.